Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, breaking news here. President Trump fires DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. The major shakeup tonight, President Trump ousting Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem just moments before she was set to go on stage to deliver a speech. After those immigration scenes in Minneapolis, the U.S. citizens shot dead, and the grilling on Capitol Hill, lawmakers asking Noem about the TV ads that she starred in, taxpayers paying more than $200 million for them. And tonight, who the president has now chosen to replace her. Rachel Scott live on the Hill tonight. Also breaking developments in the war with Iran. The U.S. and Israel ramping up attacks tonight, targeting Iran's mobile missile launchers. Iran retaliating, striking an oil facility in Bahrain. Iran also targeting an airport. At least 15 countries now involved in this conflict. Thousands of Americans still trying to get out. And the first flight out of Dubai landing in New York City. Ian Pannell reporting from the region again tonight. This evening, President Trump and what he told our Jonathan Karl, saying he should be personally involved in selecting Iran's next supreme leader. And on this war in Iran, the president telling John some are now calling him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Tonight, the major surge in oil and gas prices, the Dow losing nearly 800 points. Where gas prices stand tonight and where they're headed. Also tonight here, authorities releasing chilling new video here at home. The deadly shooting and police takedown. The gunman wearing a T-shirt with an Iranian flag. The investigation and arrest tonight. A 22-year-old man arrested in the random killings of 3 women. 2 on a hiking trail, 1 in their home. Tonight, for the first time since the disappearance of her mother, Savannah Guthrie visiting the set of the Today Show. Her message and her future. News tonight on Britney Spears. She's been arrested. And America Strong tonight, the new home for the elephants. And we'll take you there right here tonight. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
This Thursday night, Kurdish ground forces are being asked to join the war on Iran. How the U.S. president wants a say in choosing Iran's next leader, with the Pentagon possibly preparing for a months-long battle. The war's turbulent effect on air travel around the globe.
We're living in a world of travel disruptions.
The advice to anyone who has a flight booked. The trial aimed at breaking up Ticketmaster and Live Nation, but legal experts doubt it will lower ticket prices. Plus, gaining some prime mates. How things are looking up for Punch the Monkey.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The war the U.S. and Israel started in the Middle East continues to widen, and the U.S. president now says he must be involved in picking who runs Iran, even though the Trump administration has said regime change is not their aim. Iran is being hit hard by American and Israeli bombs and missiles. They say only military sites are targeted, but there are reports multiple hospitals have been hit, and a stadium in Tehran has been destroyed. Iran's foreign minister told NBC News Iran sees no reason to negotiate since it was in the middle of negotiating when the bombing began.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that will be a big disaster for them.
In Beirut, there's gridlock on the streets after Israel's military warned hundreds of thousands of people to save their lives and evacuate immediately as it steps up attacks on Hezbollah, Iran's proxy force. Lebanon fast becoming a new front in this war. Iran continues to launch missiles and drones at its neighbors, including Israel. And today, Azerbaijan, hit by drones, says it is threatening retaliation. And there are reports of the first ground troops poised to move into Iran, Kurdish forces supported by the U.S. Jeff Semple
First, President Trump has fired his Homeland Security Secretary. An administration source cites a laundry list of complaints about Secretary Kristi Noem, including what are called many unfortunate failures of leadership. The president has nominated Oklahoma's Wayne Mullen to replace Noem. Your White House correspondent Peter Ducey starts us off tonight live from the North Lawn. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Brett. Mark Wayne Mullen, the 48-year-old MMA fighter turned senator, is next up for Senate confirmation. Kristi Noem is next up to be the special envoy for the Shield of Americas, and we will learn what that job is and what it entails at an event on Saturday. But sources close to the administration are telling us there are four main reasons she had to go.
We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour.
And with an eye on new threats from Iran and its terror proxies, an administration official tells Fox it was time. Replacing Kristi was based on the culmination of her many unfortunate leadership mishaps, including the fallout in Minnesota, the $200 million ad campaign, the allegations of infidelity, the mismanagement of her staff, and her constant feuding with the heads of other agencies, including CBP and ICE. The DHS ad campaign that upset the White House looked like this.
But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies.
Noem's defense of that ad this week sealed her fate.
Correct. They work with OMB. Yes.
He did.
Yes.
The president says, not true, telling Reuters, I never knew anything about it. As news of Noem's dismissal broke, she addressed a conference in Nashville and acted like nothing was wrong.
We'll continue to work together to make sure that we have the opportunity to do that.
In D.C., her replacement was detailing today's call from President Trump.
Not a complete surprise, but it came at a little bit of surprise for us.
Some Democratic reaction was predictable.
The president has fired Kristi Noem. Good riddance.
Some was not. Senator John Fetterman writes, I'm not sure how many fellow Democrats will vote to support our colleague Senator Mullen as the next DHS secretary, but I. And Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters General President, writes, if anyone is willing to stand their butt up to protect America, it's Mark Wayne Mullen. They've come a long way in the 3 years since a near fist fight.
Well, stand your butt up then. You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it. Is that your solution? Every call it. No, sit down.
And pulling Mark Wayne Mullen from the Senate could be complicated for Republicans who don't have much of a margin there, because his replacement will be named by Kevin Stitt, a Republican governor who President Trump has in recent weeks called a rhino.
Welcome back to Night Watch here on France 24 as we continue our coverage of the war in Iran now in its seventh day. Main headlines this hour. Israeli and US strikes on Iran continue as Tehran hits back across the region. Israel also stepping up airstrikes in Lebanon, targeting the Iran-backed Hezbollah. The Lebanese health ministry says over 120 people have now been killed in Israeli attacks in response to Hezbollah strikes. Donald Trump suggests he should be involved in choosing Iran's next leader. The US president giving his opinion on some of the potential candidates to succeed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, ruling out his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, whose name is among the likely successors. The Gulf states are on high alert as Iran continues to carry out retaliatory strikes across the region. At least 13 people have been killed across the Gulf, including 7 civilians and 6 US servicemen, with debris from a downed drone injuring 6 more people in Abu Dhabi. Welcome back. We continue our coverage of the war in Iran now on its 7th day, with the latest strikes this Friday morning as Israel has launched fresh attacks on Tehran. These are some of the latest pictures from the Iranian capital, where you can see what appears to be the aftermath of airstrikes. Israel said it had launched a wave of attacks against regime infrastructure. The United States has also said this morning that it's struck a drone carrier and set it ablaze, the Shahid Bahari, which the US Central Command says is roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. There were no immediate indications as to...
This is Sky News, the headlines. American and Israeli forces continue to hammer Iran and Lebanon, while Iran ramps up retaliatory attacks around the Gulf. Donald Trump has taken another shot at the Prime Minister over what he sees as a lack of support for the US campaign. Sir Keir Starmer, though, says the special relationship is in operation as the UK deploys more fighter jets and readies a warship. Now, the Home Secretary announces major reforms to the asylum system, with some failed applicants being offered cash incentives to leave.
There is no easy solution here. If you're going to have rules, then you better enforce them.
The war against Iran enters its 7th day as the United States and Israel continue to conduct strikes against the country. Israel has also ordered wider evacuations in Lebanon, where it is fighting against the Iranian-backed paramilitary group Hezbollah, while Iran escalated its retaliation, firing more missiles and drones at Israel and several Gulf countries. The UK has said it's sending more military assets to the Middle East in an attempt to reassure allies. The US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth believes Britain will step up.
Well, as the president stated, it was unfortunate that the Brits didn't, from day one, say, "Hey, go ahead and have access." But we got there. We got there, and that's now part of the way that we're operationalizing bomber runs. And as part of when we say more to come, it's more fighter squadrons, it's more capabilities, it's more defensive capabilities, and it's more bomber pulses more frequently. The amount of firepower over Iran and over Tehran is about to surge dramatically. And part of it is that we're going to have even more basing. And it's not just the UK. We've had other friends step up, and we're grateful for that.
Well, let's get some analysis now with our US correspondent, David Blevins.
He was typically bullish, as we know him to be, but I think that was a slightly more conciliatory tone from the man who calls himself the Secretary of War regarding what many people call the special relationship. And when you consider that over the space of the 6 days of this war now, Donald Trump has gone from expressing surprise to disappointment to comparing Keir Starmer to Winston Churchill over his decision not to grant the US permission to use UK bases in the early stages of this campaign, then it is quite remarkable that the tone has shifted to that extent. But Donald Trump himself, I have to say, does now appear to be more focused on what happens next. We had the very unusual spectacle in Washington of him giving us a war update while standing alongside Lionel Messi and the Inter Miami football team celebrating their cup win at the White House. And while he said the enemy had been totally demolished, he again spoke directly, and I think this is telling, to members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Let's just hear what he...
Wednesday on CNA.
This is Asia Now.
Good afternoon. It's 4 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Milakit Silvaraju. At this hour, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warns American firepower over Iran will surge dramatically. Gulf states are on high alert as Iran keeps up its retaliatory attacks on Israel and U.S. bases around the region. Sri Lanka rescues the crew of a second Iranian ship days after a U.S. strike sank the first warship near its waters. Meanwhile, Australia confirms 3 of its military personnel were aboard the American submarine that fired the torpedo, but says they were not involved in the attack. And vote counting is underway in Nepal for its first general election since violent youth-led protests toppled the government 6 months ago. Partial results are expected later today, while full results could take several more days.
In your ABC's World News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has fired his Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who was in charge of immigration and decision on social media. Noem had faced mounting criticism after the shooting of officers. she had come under intense scrutiny from lawmakers in Congress. Israel has intensified its offensive in Lebanon, sending tanks across the border as ground troops push deeper into the country. Airstrikes are targeting the Iran-backed group Hezbollah. On Thursday, Israel issued an unprecedented evacuation warning for Beirut's southern suburb. Similar to Gaza. And it have battered Iran for a sixth day with nationwide strikes targeting military infrastructure. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office says they made historic gains campaign. Africa News. The news.
South Sudanese soldiers, including 2 officers who faced a court-martial over a civilian massacre last month, the army spokesman said Wednesday. The increasingly unstable country is seeing a surge of fighting between government and rebel forces, much of this in eastern Jonglei State. At least 280,000 people have been displaced since December, according to the United Nations. At least 25 civilians, including women and children, were killed in Ayod County in Jonglei State on February 21st, according to the opposition. The army spokesman said Wednesday that 2 officers, including a major and several non-commissioned officers, had been arrested and would face charges in the capital, Juba. He said the troops had acted without authorization from their superiors. Some of these Lebanese were only beginning to rebuild after Israel's war with Hezbollah in 2024. Now they're back on the streets of Beirut, where they sleep on pavements, beaches and parked cars, following Israeli attacks in southern Lebanon and suburbs of the capital. There's no space as the government provided shelters and new arrivals are being turned away. We don't want anything. We just want to get the message across that all we want is for someone to get us off the streets. There are numbers to call, and every time we call, they tell us the shelters are full. All we ask from the government is to take us off the streets. More than 83,000 people have been displaced in Lebanon. Hezbollah says its rocket attacks on Israel are a response to repeated ceasefire violations. Israel has issued evacuation notices for entire villages in the south and neighborhoods in Beirut. We left everything back home when we left from the south. Children don't understand what's happening during the war. You must find a safe place for your children, not for yourself. We're grown men. We can...
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Today, confirmation that Australians were on board a US sub that sank an Iranian warship. As the US says, it's now destroyed more than 30 vessels. Another nation dragged into the conflict, Azerbaijan accuses Iran of carrying out 2 drone strikes on a village and an airport. An emergency declaration issued in the Northern Territory with the town of Catherine flooding for the first time in 2 decades.
It's very important at this time that people heed the warnings of officials.
And the Matildas ease into the knockout stages of the Asian Cup after beating Iran 4-0 on the Gold Coast. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has this morning confirmed Australians were on board the US submarine that struck an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean this week. That admission comes as the US-led war in the Middle East enters a new phase, with Washington warning firepower over Iran is about to surge dramatically. The US says it has now destroyed more than 30 Iranian vessels, including a drone carrier ship. The Iranian regime says more than 1,200 people have now been killed since the operation began on Saturday.
Iran is hoping that we cannot sustain this, which is a really bad miscalculation for the IRGC in Iran. You see, there's no shortage of American will here.
The war has now spread to more than a dozen countries, with Azerbaijan accusing Iran of carrying out drone attacks that injured 4 people at an airport. Bahrain says it's also come under attack, with the country's interior ministry accusing Iran of targeting 2 hotels and a residential building. US Admiral Brad Cooper, who's overseeing the operation, says despite those latest retaliatory attacks, there are signs that Iran has been severely weakened.
If I just look back over the last 24 hours of the operation compared to where we were at its start, ballistic missile attacks have decreased by 90% since day one. Drone attacks have decreased by 83% since day one. Having said this, we remain vigilant.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says he wants to be more personally involved in choosing Iran's next leader. In an interview with Axios, Mr. Trump said reported frontrunner Mojtaba Khamenei, who is the son of slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, would be, quote, unacceptable. Speaking this morning, Mr. Trump also claimed Iran is looking for a way out of the conflict, and he's offered asylum to those who surrender.
So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death. And I don't want to see that. They don't want to see it either. We also urge Iranian diplomats around the world to request asylum and to help us shape a new and better Iran.
Our correspondent Bridget Rollison has been following developments from the region and filed this report earlier.
Well, every day there seems to be another country dragged into this war in the Middle East, and today it was Azerbaijan. It says that Iranian drones have struck one of its airports, which is about 10 kilometres from the Iranian border. That drone strike has damaged parts of the airport and injured 2 people. Azerbaijan had recently forged closer ties with Israel, but Iran had denied that it attacked the airport. The Azerbaijani president has reportedly visited the Iranian embassy in Baku just yesterday to sign a condolence book for the Islamic regime Ayatollah. So the Azerbaijani president had some pretty strong words for Iran, vowing to retaliate with full might.
Bütün bunların mukabilinde
arbitrator, savior, juror, solicitor, cause being